Hey everybody out there in BeastNet land. Brother Boggs here. I want to invite you down to the grand opening of
Connect to a Juice Bar.
118 Broadway, Seattle, Washington.
They make freshly made juices, smoothies, and fruit bowls.
Just clean, healthy eating that tastes just as good as it makes you feel. Grand opening November 17th, going through the end of the year. Come on down and check it out. Proud sponsors of BeastNet Podcast.
BeastNet Podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeastNet here, and today I've got with me Justin Scholl. So Justin, let everyone know kind of who you are.
So like you said, my name is Justin Scholl. I live out in PA. I'm the founder of Lehigh Valley Spartans. Been on the podcast twice now, but OCR athlete, trail runner, and ultra marathoner, and I can now add 100-mile race DNFer to that title as well.
DNFs are the worst. So
yeah, yes they are.
They are. It's hard. I mean, that's one thing I know me and Donna talked about it is the motivation after a DNF. I DNF'd earlier this year. I DNF'd my first attempt at an Ironman.
Okay.
And it was soul crushing. I mean, it took me like a month to come out of the funk of like knowing what I did wrong, but trying to figure out how to fix it, but wondering if I want to fix it. If that makes sense.
No, man, perfect sense. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like I made it 90 miles, got driven 2 miles to the aid station. So to 92.5 is where I pulled from out of 100. So I physically could not walk. So being like this close to being able to finish 100-mile, everybody's like, oh, you did a great job. Like, 90 miles is nothing to shake a stick at. Like, that's amazing. But it's like, yeah, but I was there for 100 miles, not 90. Like, it was this close. So yeah, it's definitely playing with me mentally for sure.
And I could see that would be rough. I mean, that's one of the things I know. It wasn't a 100-miler, but I know Don on his first attempt at a marathon with me, it was mile 22 or 23. His back just gave out. And he started back spasms to the point where he couldn't, like you said, couldn't walk. So he had to get a ride back. And it was one of those, I was at a point where I'm like, because at that point we were 8 hours in because we were both big guys at that time. And there's no way we should have been doing a marathon, but we did it anyway. And I'm going with the way I'm at right now, I can't stop to do anything. So it's pretty much like, tell me now, are you going or not? He's like, I can't. And I'm like, I'm sorry, then I got to go. Because if I sit here and try and help you, I'm going to have to stop too. So, and just kept going. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made to say, okay, then I'm leaving you. I've got to go if I'm going to do this myself,
So I wrote a blog about my DNF with the 100-mile here at Rim the River. And in the little blog that I wrote, so anytime I do these big races, I race with a really good friend of mine, Chris Andrews. We've done a lot of stupid races together. And, we have, I think, marathoners, ultra marathoners, when you run with somebody, there's that unwritten rule of, I'm not going to leave you until you cut cut it loose. We were at about mile 77, 78, and I'm looking at the watch and I'm like, we were both hurting, but I was like, Chris, we gotta go. Like, we gotta pick this up big time in order to finish. And he was like, he was having trouble walking too. And he's like, do you have more left in the tank? And I was like, yeah, we gotta go. And he's like, you gotta go get that buckle. He's like, I if you stay with me, you're not gonna finish. So like you said, man, the hardest thing I did was I left one of my best friends injured, alone, in the dark, in the woods of West Virginia, and we had no freaking clue where the hell we were. It was, all we knew was he had to get back to this road to an aid station, and he was like, man, your headlamp disappeared so quick, and my headlamps quit, and I was cold and scared. And I was like, and it's a shitty feeling as a friend. But
it is.
If I was in his position, I would have hoped he would have done the same thing to me. And there's no hard feelings.
No, and that was the thing with him. It was one of those, I mean, he told me, he's like, you need to go. Because the whole idea was, when we did that first one, my goal was to do a marathon before I turned, 40. So
okay,
it was like, that was 6 days before my 40th birthday. I was in no shape to do it, but I'm like, I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. So he got me. Without him, I would have never gotten that 23-mile mark. Right. But the fact that I was there, and he's like, I can't continue it. And I'm like, well, then I got to go. I would have never made it that far. So he got me to that 23-mile mark. And then I had to push the last 3 miles by myself. But, it is tough when you sit there and you have to leave it. And that was the hardest thing, because I did my first Spartan Ultra. It was only 30 miles, but with the obstacles and everything else is,
it's still
a little difficult. It is. And we were supposed to have a group. I think it was 6 or 7 of us, but you know how it goes, different things, medical issues, stuff like that. People weren't able to make it. And I ended up actually basically going alone. But my biggest fear was that I've trained really hard. I lost 100 pounds. I've gained back about 30, but I lost 100 pounds. I was in a lot better shape. And I was like, I had that fear in my brain of, what if it hits that point where one of them can't continue and I have to make that choice of either I don't get my buckle or I have to leave them, and not to sound bad, they kind of saved me that choice, because none of them, they didn't go, but it was one of those, I knew there was a chance that I would have to make it, and thinking, I know Don would have continued. He would have been fine. I think just because mentally he would have just pushed through it, whether he was physically there or not, but it was a tough race. That was a tough one. I got it. I finished. I don't have a buckle, but that's another story. So I finished my first ultra and they ran out of buckles.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And they ran out of buckles. I was finishing 278 of 350 something. And they were out before I got there. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be good. There's a lot of really upset people about that, but
yeah.
But I mean, I know I did it. So, but I couldn't imagine, I've had 2 DNFs in my life. I DNF'd the Hawaii Beast, but at that point I missed the cut by 30 seconds.
Oh man, that's rough.
And literally, I think it's probably the first time I've cried at a race. I was destroyed. Didn't even want to get up the next day and do any other races. But I mean, everyone kept pointing out, not to sound bad, I did have a broken foot and my foot was in a boot. So I shouldn't have been out there anyway, but, but I missed it. That 30 seconds was just really, I'm like 30 seconds. You can't just, but looking back, even if I had continued with how slow I was moving because of that boot on my foot, I wouldn't have made it. I would have made the next one. I wouldn't have made the next cut. So It was better that I got pulled, but still the fact that I knew it was only 30 seconds. And then the Ironman, I was 19 minutes when I came back in on the bike. And it was my own fault. I didn't train. I should have pushed it the next year because I only had 2 months of swimming training and I'm not a good swimmer.
Yeah.
That's why I'll never
do it. That's why I'll never do a triathlon. I don't swim very well.
And that's kind of why I wanted to do it, but the swim killed me. So, and it was the hardest thing because I was 2 miles out of the 56-mile bike ride. I was at mile 54 when I was told that you're past the time. Oh, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I've already done 54 miles. He's like, just finish the ride in, but just know once you get in, you're done. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Let me at least finish the 56 miles. I mean, I'm 54 miles in. Just let me finish that. And they're like, okay. But it was just heartbreaking, so I couldn't imagine being at mile 92, of 100-miler, and you'll have to give us a link to your blog. So I want to make sure people can read that too, but kind of give us what was going through your mind when you hit that. Cause I mean, that's gotta be the hardest decision where you want, they always say it's mind over matter, but eventually your body does get to a point where it doesn't matter how much you want it. Your body's just not going to let you get it.
Yeah. So let me go back a little bit further in the race. We were at aid station at mile 63. And we had saw that at this point we were living aid station to aid station. 16 hours into this thing already, 18 hours into it. And the next aid station was at mile 70. So we were like, 7 miles. That's fine.
Yeah.
So we started taking off, and there was a woman with her pacer, and we got in this woods, and it was the weirdest, like, mind mess. You could see headlamps in 360 degrees of you, but you had no clue where you were going. It was so dark and in the woods. So, and when your watch is usually a little short or a little long, it's never dead on.
Yep.
So my buddy's was a little short, mine was a little long. And we're at like mile 69, mile 70. We're like, all right, like the aid station should be like over this next hill. It never came. We went like another, what felt like 2 miles, and we just saw mile 69.5. And we're like, what the hell is going on here? So we finally got to this aid station, and everybody was just kind of like, it was already starting to play with your mind. Like, you're at mile 72, it's supposed to be at mile 70. So we're like, all right, well, at least we're banking miles. And then the whole thing happened where I had to leave Chris. So I got to the next aid station, which was mile 79, saw my wife, my daughter, and Chris's wife and his daughter. And I was like, these next 7 miles to the next aid station are flat. Like, I can pick up some time here. And I started moving where I was at like doing like 12, 13, 14 minute miles, which at that point in time was pretty damn decent for me. So I got to the next aid station. I beat cutoff by an hour and a half, which I was pretty happy with. I'm doing math in my mind, and I was like, if I can keep a 20-minute mile, this is in the back. I freaking got this. So the first 14 miles and the last 14 miles of the race is on Ace Resorts property. So I knew once I crossed Arbuckler Creek, I was starting my 86th mile, and I was back on the property, and like we're on the downhill. My legs hurt so bad when I got to Arbuckler. I spent 10 minutes mentally trying to figure out how to move my feet across the creek so I wouldn't get wet. Got across the creek, and then we went up this hill. And halfway up the hill, everything just seized on me. And I mean, like completely locked to where I would try to bend my knee, and my meniscuses were so inflamed and so tight, they would rubber band back on me. So I had trekking poles. I was literally like, my feet didn't leave the ground. I was literally dragging myself up the hill. And I went from doing, like I said, 12, 13, 14 minutes to 41 to 44 minute mile paces. And I couldn't pick my feet up. So I was slamming my legs against rocks, and like, I was just in so much pain. And I looked down, I was like, fudge, I got like 5 miles of this to get to the next aid station. And I started doing math, and I was like, it's over. It's it. Like, it's not that I want this, because I do. It's physically not going to happen anymore. And I can honestly, I love being in the woods on the trails by myself. This hands down was the most scared I have ever been. People were passing me, and I was like, when you get to the aid station, please tell them 174 needs help. I was yelling out for help, send me a gator. Next thing I know, I'm sitting on the ground crying. I haven't cried in like 15 years. No clue why I was crying. I just crying. And then I finally got to a road. I went off course, found a road, heard an engine, and I'm like, this is my one and only chance to get help. See this truck coming down, flagged him down with my trekking poles, and it was like, dude, I don't know who you are. You don't know me, but I need you to take me to Concho Rim. I had called my wife and left a voicemail. She was supposed to meet me at the finish line at 11 a.m., right? Which was what I was on pace for. I called her at 7 o'clock in the morning and told her to meet me in an hour, because I was almost done. I had no clue what was going on. Then I texted her. I was like, no, it's 3 hours. I'm like, oh my God, they're not even awake yet. Like, what's up? They were like, you're not making coherent sense. So I got driven back, and they were checking me for structural knee damage, which thank God I didn't have any. I just had meniscus stuff. But I was sitting in the bed of my truck. I just looked at my wife. I said, I'm sorry. I started crying. I was like, sorry I couldn't do it. There's nothing I could do. And I mean, my daughter was there. My daughter and my wife were my crew. They crew for me a lot, which is great. You know, it's always great to show your kids that you put your mind to shit, you can accomplish it. But I think it was also really good for my daughter to see that, you know, yeah, dad failed, but he literally gave it everything he had till he physically could not move anymore. He didn't quit. So, you know, you don't always succeed in everything in life. So I think that was a good, something good for my daughter to see.
Which is true. That's one thing, you know, I mean, we do a lot on this show. We'll talk about, you know, a lot of mental health stuff and a lot of wins that people have, but we also like to talk about, you know, stuff like this because we all go through it. I mean, and I think a lot of people really don't know how to deal with, hey, I didn't make it, you know. It happens, unfortunately, you know, and like you said, the DNFs, it's rough. And now I think the hardest ones are, you know, ones like that where, I mean, you know, you put everything into it. I think the only thing that was harder for me, like when the Ironman was, I knew I had more in the tank. Like I knew, you know, I had finished the bike and the run. I'm like, this is what I do. This is what I was here. I run, you know, I run 100 miles a month, every month, you know, I run constantly. It's like right now I was looking, you know, I'd been screwing with my computer. I was supposed to run between work and here, but I had computer issues and I didn't get it in. So it's like my brain is going into fits like you're supposed to run today. So I got to go run at some point, but you know, that's my thing. And so it was tough because I had that. I'm like, I got everything in the tank. I can do this, but I just ran out of time. Where with yours, you pushed yourself till your body wouldn't move, you know, and that I think is a whole nother one where I think that would be the tougher DNF, you know, that you pushed yourself to that point and you know, you did it, but it's tough because, you know, you gave it everything you had and you left everything on that course, but you didn't come back with that buckle.
Yeah.
And that's got to be that's tough to get past. I mean, it's a tough mental thing to get past that you put everything out there, you know, and didn't come back with that buckle. I mean, I haven't been as far as, like I said, that first marathon I did, I had my left ankle locked up for the last 2 miles. My ankle wouldn't bend. So like Don took a video of me running into the finish line and it looks like I'm peg leg because I can't bend my left ankle, but I'm like, I'm finishing this damn thing, you know. But that was 26 miles. I mean, you know, 100 miles, the most I've done at one shot was 43 for my birthday last year.
Okay.
I'm stupid. And someone said, you know, hey, I know, let's run my age for my birthday.
You better hope you don't live long, dude.
Yeah, no. Well, that's what I'm trying to decide this year. I'm thinking, am I doing it again this year? And I haven't said it yet, but I think I am. I just haven't told anyone yet. So it might be one of those things that I just go do it, you know.
Well, once this podcast airs, it's going to be out there.
Yeah, it is. I am doing, we are doing a friend of mine, and I don't know if it was me, Dawn, or my friend Brian. One of us came up with this idea a while ago for a challenge, and we called it the Pretty Mike Challenge because I lost the 100 pounds. You start and do a 5K starting with 100 pounds of weight, and then every quarter mile, because we're going to do it on a track, you drop 10 pounds.
Dude, that's cool. I like that idea. That's awesome.
So once you hit the last, like, I think it is two laps. So basically like the last half mile, you end up running with no weight, but you have to drop the weight as you go. And it was one of those things. I think it's, you know, between Don and Brian, I think they came up with it. Because it was based on my losing 100 pounds. So we're going to do that the Black Friday rather than going shopping. We're going to go do that. So
that's awesome. I like that a lot.
So, but it's one of those things where we come up with those crazy ideas, but I think, you know, that's what I was going to do for my birthday this year, but I'm like, I feel like I kind of started a tradition and I got to do the 44. So for my 44th birthday.
It's funny you're talking about your birthday. So my birthday was the 100-mile race. It started on my birthday. So ran through the entire day of my birthday into the next day. And then, yeah.
But it's one of those things, I mean, it sucks, but the next question I have is, and there's usually two answers to this, where mostly it is are you going to do it again? Are you going to go for another shot? And I know for me, like when I've had these, I'm like, forget this. I'm done. There's no way I'm doing this again. And then like with the Ironman, I'm like, this is stupid. I ain't doing it again. And then I signed up the next week for the next year.
So I can say I am not going back. When I originally signed up for this race, I had told my wife this was a once and done. This was the last distance I wanted to check off for like the runner's checklist that I didn't have. I have everything from 1 mile up to 100K checked off. 100 mile was the last thing I needed to check. Looking at it, logistics wise, expense wise, hotel, pacer, crew, like all the expenses, it's just, to me, it's not worth it. It's overly expensive. I can go run a 50K for freaking $59, $79, knock it out in 6 to 7 hours and be home the same day. No crew, nothing. Same thing with 100K. I had a crew for that, but I knocked that out in 14 hours and drove home the same night. And, I wasn't spending 5 days somewhere, or, if I go out west, you acclimate to the altitude and the jet lag. And I honestly don't have a desire to do it again. However, it was funny on Monday or Tuesday, the race company that puts the 100-mile race on, they announced their 50K back in February, and that they're going to be holding 100K there in 2023. My wife was like, I was already waiting for the post, headed back to West Virginia. I was like, well, maybe for the 100K. The 50K, I'm not running in the snow. I'm not doing a 50K in the snow. As much as I love the winter, this 100-miler there was some areas where I thought I was for sure going to lose fingertips. That's how cold my hands were. So we're not going back in the snow for sure.
So if you had a 100-miler that wasn't, would you do it again? If it wasn't there in West Virginia, if it wasn't in the snow, if it was one of those like, hey, it's going to be where you're, closer to home.
So that's Eastern States 100 for me. That's only like hour and a half away.
Now, would you do that? I mean, it's one of those things, because I know sometimes too, as you look at it, I've done the Hawaii, Spartan a couple of times, and that's, a big thing, but we always make a vacation.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. It's a big, I like to be there a week early because I like to acclimate to the heat and the humidity before I do it. That's what was nice this last time. I went and I ran every day in the heat and humidity for a week before I did the races, where, if it's where you live, you wouldn't have to worry about getting acclimated to that West Virginia, altitude, the cold, everything else. I mean, would that change your decision?
I honestly don't think so. Don't get me wrong. The race was a very good experience, and the company that puts it on, they're freaking, even though it's only the second year, the event was top notch. The scenery is beautiful. I don't want to be up that long, man. That sucked. We had 32 hours, and I was on pace to finish in 30 until the shit happened with my legs. But I was up 4.5 hours before the race. I just don't want to be up 36.5 hours, 34.5, whatever the hell it is. Just trying to live on gummy bears and freaking ramen noodles. It's just, no, it was a good experience, but I can honestly say, I always wanted to do Eastern States. But now after doing this, I'm like, you know what? If the only way I'll go to Eastern States or be back at another 100-mile race is if it's the crew or pace. I'll more than help out any of my friends, crew, pace, whatever they want. I'm not going to be the guy who's going to be the main show.
And I could see that. It's one of those things. I mean, there are those events, like I said, with the Ironman. It's a half Ironman. It's something, that if done right, I'll be done in 6 hours. Like you said, that's the difference. I'll be done in 6 hours. But the toll that you put on yourself for that 100-miler, and a lot of people don't think about that. It's not just, driving out there, going 100 miles and coming back. You're putting, 30 hours of running. So you're putting your body through constant movement for 30 hours plus sometimes a little less, depending on, your athletic ability. So it's not a simple race. It's a very intense race. And I know a lot of people I know a few people that have finished and a lot of people that have DNF'd 100 milers, because you hit that point where your body isn't fueled like it should be, because you're not, because it's hard. It's almost impossible to sit there and fuel yourself for the calories you're going to burn when you're moving for 30 hours straight.
So last year, for the first year of the event, it was like high of 73 or something like that, and a low of 56. So I mean, like, it was almost a little too warm, but like perfect at night. This year the high was 50 and the low was like 27. And then we were down by the river, the new river running. 250 people started it, 142 finished under the 32 hours. There was one person that finished just over 32 hours. So 107 people didn't even come close, or didn't finish. And everybody was saying, like, the cold this year just destroyed you. It made everything tighten up so much quicker. And then, like, fueling, I was eating stuff. I mean, when you're an ultra, you eat some weird shit to begin with, but I was eating some random stuff. We were in Fayetteville around 10:30, 11 at night, and this guy got I don't know who he was. He got a cup of mashed potatoes topped with Coke and sprinkled with gummy bears. And I'm looking at this guy like, that is not going to be good. He took this first spoonful, and it was just pure bliss in heaven for this guy. Like, that's what he needed at that moment in time. But it was like, you eat some weird stuff, but you don't, you're constantly burning those calories. It's so tough to fuel. And like, the other thing that I have an issue with is, like, if I know an aid station 7 miles away, I'm like, I'll just eat the next aid station. But as the night progresses on, 7 miles could be an hour and a half, and you shouldn't be going that long without eating.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That would be bad to go that long without eating. But yeah, no, you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be going that long without eating. But that's the hard part, is it's like, to be out there for 30 fuel you're going to need is difficult. So yeah, no, that fueling for an hour and a half, that's got to be the hardest part, is figure out the fueling. I found some of my favorite things are either wraps. I like peanut butter sandwiches, but other people have weird things.
Yeah, I was big with plain ramen noodles and beef broth with bread and butter pickles. Oh, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
That's not bad.
No. It was that, quesadillas, pepperoni rolls, mac and cheese, electrolyte drinks, gummy bears, caffeine chews. What else was I eating? I think it's about it. Oh, Coke and Mountain Dew. Any ultra I'm in. Coke, Mountain Dew is the absolute ticket. Otherwise, I don't drink soda.
I've heard that from people that, like, don't drink it at all except for when they're doing races like that.
Yep. Any ultra, if an aid station has Mountain Dew, I am getting Mountain Dew. That is like that carried me in my 100K the entire day. Mountain Dew, gummy bears, and pierogies was like, that's all I needed, with a little bit of pickles here and there.
See, that's just crazy. Like, where you think of Mountain Dew as like the sugariest soft drink, and like people use it constantly. I've heard that from multiple people for ultras.
Yeah, this is the first race I went to where they offered
Is it the sugar?
Yeah, I think so. Like, your body's still craving it. But this one was weird. They offered, excuse me, you could either get carbonated or flat Coke, ginger ale, or Mountain Dew. I always go for the carbonated, just because I don't like the taste of flat soda. But yeah, man, Coke, Mountain Dew that's the way to go in an ultra event.
Huh. That is so weird. But you don't drink it any other time besides that?
Mountain Dew, absolutely not. Like, if I go out to a restaurant, like, here and there, I'll get like a soda. But no, we don't drink soda at home. Don't drink it at work. But ultras, damn right I'm drinking soda.
That is the weirdest thing, because I don't drink soda that much anymore, because once I started losing the weight, that was one of the first things I cut out. But that is definitely an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the science behind it. I mean, I would imagine that you would need, you do need some sugars, but yeah, I'm not I'm not the science guy behind that. All I know is it works.
Huh. I know for me, I've always been very careful about, I make sure whatever I'm going to use on a race that I've eaten it and I know my stomach can handle it. Because I've been in one of those races where I ate something I wasn't used to. And yeah, all of a sudden I had to like run really fast to find a porta potty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that happened to me in a 40-miler last year. I will never in my life eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in a trail race ever again.
See, for me, I can have the peanut butter, but not the jelly.
Okay.
So I do, because that's one of the things that I do a lot. I just did it's the Battle Miles death race I did last weekend. It's 30 miles plus some other things, workouts every mile.
Okay.
And that's all I had for fuel the whole time. For all 30 miles was I had peanut butter sandwiches. No jelly, just peanut butter. So.
And I know that works for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people. That it's something about the sugar and the protein and the peanuts. But
I'm big with beef jerky. I will bring beef jerky along to every single race.
I can see that with the salt, because one of the big problems I have, and I haven't been able to figure out if it's because of not enough salt or too much before a race, but my hands balloon up.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, to where the point, like when I was doing the ultra in Dallas, when I got to the last couple races, the last couple things like the monkey bars, my hands were so swollen I couldn't even grab the monkey bars.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and I don't know what it is. It's only, and I'm thinking it's because I'm not used to salt, and usually on those races I'm out of town, so I'm eating fast food and eating stuff that I'm normally not eating. So I think I might be getting more salt than I'm used to right before the race. So,
yeah, that's probably what it is.
Because it usually doesn't happen, And I thought about it. Well, when I did the death race, it was here last weekend, and I'm like, man, but I ballooned up. And my wife's like, yeah, but the night before we had pho, which is full of salt, Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, which I'm not too. When I cook, I don't put salt in anything I cook. I very rarely have anything with salt in it. So, yeah. So I know there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I think what we're going to have to is have you on another episode, but we're having such issues with the internet. It's getting kind of weird where the internet's going back and forth. So I think we should, finish up here and then see about maybe having another episode where we bring you back on in a couple of weeks and talk about some more stuff. So, because I really like hearing about the stuff with the, I guess like hearing about it isn't the right word, but talking to someone who has been through the DNF and mentally how it messes with you, but at the same time where you're still looking at it as a good experience. I mean, it was a bad experience in a way, but still you learn from it, which is the way you should look at these things. So
100%.
So yeah, so let's go ahead and what do you think the listeners should take away from this? And then, like I said, afterwards we'll send some emails back and forth. Figure out another time we can bring you on when I have better internet.
Yeah, not a problem. So I think, it's okay. I think it's okay for a DNF to mess with somebody mentally. I think that's okay for a runner. I think you always see when like somebody says, "Oh, I DNF'd," it's like, "Hey, welcome to the ultra. Don't worry about it. You'll get it the next time." Like you always get that positive reinforcement, but I think it's okay to dwell on it and deal with it. I think if you are going through that, you're not alone. It's not just you. Just take the time to process it, but don't let it get you to the point where, oh man, I DNF'd in this event. I'm just going to quit the sport together. Like I'm still going to run ultras. I'm just not going to do 100-mile races. Like I've DNF'd 40-mile races before. I DNF'd 100K, but I've completed 100K. I've completed 50Ks, 50 milers. Like I'm still not going to get out of the sport, but it just, process it, figure out how to turn it into a positive, and don't let it get you so down. You like figure out why it's messing with you. I think that's what people should take away from it. Like I know my why. I know why it's messing with me. I was 6 points or 7.5 miles away from finishing a 100-mile race. It's not that I only ran 90 miles, like that's still a hell of an achievement. But like I said earlier, I didn't come there to run 90 miles. I came there to run 100.
Yeah. And that's got to be, and like I said, that would be the part that I think would mess with me the most, is that I pushed my body to that limit and I couldn't go. Yeah. And I think that would be the hardest part for me. And it's one of those things. It's like I said, I DNF'd, the Ironman, but it was a different situation where I just wasn't fast enough,
Right.
And but I still had money. I still had stuff in the tank. So that one drove me nuts because I knew I wasn't quick enough, where I just knew my training wasn't what it should have been for the swim, But on yours, it's one of those, like, you kept going until your body was like, nope, you're done, and that's got to be a completely different feeling.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you for talking to me. Sorry that the internet has been such an issue. Like I said, this was the first time I've done this on my iPad. And right now we're in the middle of a storm. And the internet's just horrible. So thank you for talking to me. I definitely want to talk to you again soon.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.